Fabric Gems Boutique is a video podcast where we celebrate the art of quilting. Each episode will be packed with inspiring guests from every corner of the quilting world, sharing their best gems of knowledge, creativity, and passion. Whether you're a seasoned quilter or just getting started, there's something here for everyone to help you create your own gem. Discover the hidden gems of quilting. And now, get ready for Fabric Gems Boutique with your host, Kris O'Connor. Hi everyone, Kris O'Connor with Fabric Gems Boutique. I am so excited today. I have a really fun guest. I've known this individual for a very long time. As a matter of fact, we used to work together. He used to work for me and do things at the previous company. And it's funny how we ended up he was first, I'm second. But it's funny how we ended up in the same industry, fabric and quilting and all that kind of good stuff. I am so excited to introduce you to John Nosal, and he's with Fabric Café, which they are well known for 3-yard quilts, and they just introduced something new. But the person you probably know more of would be his mom or his sister. But I'm excited to have John on here today because not a lot of men are in quilting. So let me bring John up here. There we go.
Well, hey, everybody. It's great to be here, Kris, and I look forward to our show today.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you here. We just had a great conversation beforehand, reminiscing about different things, but I'm just really excited that you're here. And I think the first question that I wanted to ask was, what inspired the creation of 3-yard quilting? I know your mom's been doing it. How long has she been doing this?
Well, we started Fabric Café back in 2001 in January. Literally, it was the first day of the year. They came in and brought some of their fabric stash into the office, and Fran and Donna, my mom, said, we're going to start a business and we're not sure what it's going to be yet. So day one, they brought all of their stuff into, at the time, it was my stepdad's building, and they got a little corner over in one part of the building. That's awesome. They kind of set up a card table and stuck some of their stash out there, and they went, okay, well, now what are we going to do? Well, let's go watch a movie.
That's hilarious.
So they went and watched a movie, and then they got together and talked some more, and they had some ideas. And really, that's what got Fabric Cafe started was at that point in time. They actually started a product, you may remember it, or some of your viewers may remember it, called Chenille by the Inch. And it was a faux chenille that we manufactured here in our facility here in Tyler, Texas. And it was 3 layers of fabric that we sewed on the bias. And we had a couple of the big industrial size long arms in the building that my stepdad at the time went through and automated it so that it did all of the sewing for us. And I mean, this was back before long arms were really getting into being computer driven, and now you can check your email on them, check Facebook.
It's crazy, isn't it?
I'm checking into Facebook with a stitch pattern that I'm doing today on this kit or on this quilt.
Isn't that crazy?
And it's so cool. In fact, whenever they started coming out, I would be going to some of the different quilt shows, and I would walk up to one of them and say, "Can I check my email?"
He's a geek. I'm going to tell you, he is definitely a geek. Anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm very much a geek. But anyway, so in about 2007, 2008 time frame, we got this awesome deal on just a large pile of, I won't call it secondhand fabric, but it was clearance fabric that one of the fabric manufacturers reached out to us. And, we got it for like $1.25 a yard or something like that. It was a deal that we couldn't pass. We never had any idea what it was, but, these big boxes came in and we had all this fabric. And, there's no such thing as ugly fabric, but this was borderline. It was like, it was the dregs of, 50 different fabric lines, and it was stuff they were just trying to get out of the work.
Yeah, nobody was buying, obviously, right?
Nobody would buy it because they had no vision to really put that fabric to use, because it wasn't my favorite color. It wasn't cute cats. It was, it was just weird stuff.
Right.
And so Mom, Donna, and Fran, my sister, they got together, and Mom said, well, why don't you take 3 even amounts of the fabric and see what you can come up with. And so 3-yard quilts were born at that point in time. Fran said, well, I'm going to take 3 1-yard cuts and just design it into a quilt and see what we can do. So we did that. We designed up a couple of patterns to use 3 1-yard cuts of fabric. And so we went to a trade show. I think it was, I don't know, Hershey, Pennsylvania or something like that. We had like 50 kits. We're going like, we made up these kits and all of this stuff. And we go on like, I hope we can sell it. And so they got in there. And by the first day of the show at lunchtime, we were sold out. All 50 kits were gone.
Wow.
And Mom and Fran are looking at each other going, I think we have something here.
No kidding.
And so they were calling back to the office and so make up more kits, overnight them to us so that we have more product to sell for the show so that we could do that. And so they were back here frantically cutting and rolling in all of this stuff with the fabric. So that was really the world premiere, shall we say, of 3-yard quilts. And it has just, skyrocketed from there. We now have over pushing 100 individual patterns. These are going to be individual patterns that are going to be for lap size quilts. And we just rolled out our 25th book and called Fabulous 5-Yard Quilts. And it is, as you can see, using 5 yards of fabric now. So we're starting to branch out. One of the things that we really like to do with Fabric Cafe is we really listen to our customers. And, so a couple of years ago, customers are saying like, I've got these piles of fat quarters. What do I do with them? And so, we came out with the book called Fat Quarter Quilting Fun. And it still is using 3 yards of fabric. It's just doing it all using fat quarters. So you're using 12 of those fat quarters. And so it's just evolving as we go along so that we're really listening to our customers. And that's really part of our success and just the craze that's being created right now.
I think you guys have got a great thing going, and you absolutely do listen to your customers. Honestly, it's so refreshing when a company listens to their customers, clients, whatever you want to call them, because your YouTube channel has skyrocketed. And I'm a groupie. I watch almost every single one. And I want to tell you, I am newer into the quilting world. And when you're new, you tend to get so overwhelmed. Like, where do I go? How do I choose my fabric?
Right.
How do I do this? How do I do? And I put off for the longest time. Okay, I don't know if you remember this, way back when your mom used to travel and you guys actually came to the Plano Quilt Show and used to do it every year. Well, now you don't travel anymore, but back then I still have my original fabric and pattern. I should have brought it out from what I bought, and I was too chicken to try it. And then I finally made one a year ago for my daughter-in-law. I thought, okay, this is ridiculous. I have just got to do this. Now, I like Shannon Cuddle fabrics. And so if I'm going to make a quilt, it's going to be 3-yard quilts, maybe now 5-yard quilts, but it'll always be backed by Shannon fabrics. I don't know. There's something, I just love that fabric. So I made one for my daughter-in-law. My daughter-in-law is extremely picky, and she actually loved it.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it was just a very simple pattern. And since then, like, I don't know if I mentioned this to you, State of Search, I had 4 keynote speakers. I made 4 3-yard quilts for them.
Awesome.
One for each.
Now who's being nerdy?
I know, exactly. And so I got a friend who's turning 50 next week. So I have it all cut out. I just have to put it together this weekend. And then I have a friend who's got a long arm. And so anyways, I'm just really excited about it because for me, I don't have the patience to sit down and do 25 blocks of the same thing.
Right.
And then put it together and then figure out the backing and then figure out the, long arm quilting thing and all that other kind of good stuff. So for me and my personality, I'm a 3-yard quilt kind of girl.
Right. And that's really true. And, here's a great tip for you and your listeners. If you're afraid to cut up that beautiful fabric that you just fell in love with when you were walking through the quilt shop or you're, cruising around on the internet, run down to this little place called Walmart. They've got super, super cheap fabric. Go practice with some of that fabric. Don't judge the fabric. It's Walmart fabric. And so go out there
Actually,
and
it's not
practice with
too
that.
bad. It's
It,
not too bad, some of it.
right. You gotta
Not
look at
not
it.
too bad. Yeah.
It may fray a little bit, but yeah, it's okay.
Well, so
But
does
go out there and
Riley
just
Pike and Moda.
go to your local fabric store. They've got a clearance rack somewhere.
Mhm.
Buy you 3 yards of fabric off of that and just play.
Yep.
And after you finish it up, go ahead and get it long armed, or do the quilting yourself. Donate it to somebody. That's a great thing to do.
It
You
it
know,
really is. It really is. And so
and
what
you get some experience at doing it that way, and you haven't been afraid to mess up your adorable cat fabric or whatever it might be.
well, I mean, when I made for the people at State of Search, it's a conference, by the way, and John knows because he's attended it before, but um it wasn't perfect. My little points didn't point like exactly, but when you quilt it, nobody cares and nobody really looks at it, right? I could
All
have pointed
quilters
out
do it in love. There-
exactly.
There's more love going into that project than anything else. And you know, I do the same thing. I mean, we had a lady at church that just had a baby. Perfect tax time, December 27th. You know, they got to deduct the baby for the whole year. It's awesome.
That is
And
awesome.
and I'm going like, well, I'm gonna make him a quilt. And I literally sat down one night, made the quilt top, and did one of the new patterns from the one that you've got behind you there, double focus,
Mhm.
and knocked it out in the evening. And I'm going like, well, I'm going to quilt this one myself. It was a challenge.
Mhm.
I had puckers everywhere because I'm trying to do this on my dining room table, and it's I've got it all pinned together, but I'd get down to the end of a row of doing stitch in the ditch, and it starts rippling up on me, and I'm going like, it's okay. The baby's not gonna know.
That's right.
you
That's
know,
right.
the baby's not gonna sit there and go, "Oh, that's horrible. I think I'm gonna barf on it now."
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. I mean, babies don't
It's
care.
okay.
I mean, it's interesting. So that kind of leads me into what drew you to become part of this. Now, I know that you built the website and you did all the
Right.
techie things in the background, but now you're in it full time. And what drew you to want to be there? Because we don't always want to be in a family business together,
Right.
but you guys all get along so well. We've been at functions and we've had such a great time. So tell me what inspired you to want to be there full time?
Well, I really enjoy working with my mom and sister. I mean, this is not the first business I've worked together with them. In fact, we have a running joke. Mom fired me from one of my jobs, and I still have fun with her. But it was the greatest thing that ever happened to me is to get fired by my mother. Um, long, long time ago. But the I can really go back to when I was a child. Mom, when we would be at home from school on the summer and things like that, every
Mhm.
year mom would say, okay, pick out a project that you want to do this summer, and that's what you're going to work on. So she'd take us down to Joann's or Hancock's or the local sewing craft center, and we would pick out the project that we were going to do. I mean, so we were doing things like, we were crocheting, we were doing embroidery, cross stitch, crewel, um, uh,
Knitting probably. Yeah,
hooking, rag rugs. I mean, we
yeah,
were just doing everything. And
yeah.
one of my fond favorite pictures that I've got is my sister Fran and I were sitting on this gorgeous
Oh,
big flower print couch from the
mhm.
1970s, early 70s, maybe late. It was probably late. Yeah, probably right around 1970. And I'm sitting there crocheting, and Fran's right here over my shoulder, just enamored with what I'm doing. And all I'm doing is a chain stitch, the whole skein of yarn, one big long chain. And then I'd undo it and then crochet it again. Or if I was really adventurous, I would chain the chain. So
Wow.
mom would always keep us busy. And, so we were always learning new things. And there's not a needlecraft that I don't know how to do. Because back in that job that mom fired me from,
Yeah.
one of the things that I was doing there, BC, before computers, is I was doing hand illustration work. So I was drawing, crochet stitches, knitting stitches, how to do a cross stitch through counted cross stitch.
Wow. I learned
All of
something.
those things to do. I was doing the illustrations for that, of where you would do your color changes and where the stitch would go and all of that stuff. Well,
Yeah.
in order for me to do those illustrations, I had to do it. And so, you would come into my desk. I'd have a drafting table here where I'm doing all of this stuff, and there'd be a crochet hook there, a ball of yarn, and I would be doing that. Then I'd go into the copy machine and make up a block of the stitches, lay it on the copy machine, scan that. Then I'd come over here and start tracing it out. And, so that's how I literally have been involved in all of that through all of these years. And then this thing called computers came out, and I'm
Oh,
so I was enamored, because I'm going like, there's got to be an easy way. I mean, literally, there would be some illustrations that I would work on for weeks.
I bet.
So I would be doing these color change stitch charts and all of this stuff, and I'd work on this thing for weeks, and it'd have all of these layers and all of this manual stuff that I'd have to go through in order to do that. And I'm going like, computers have got to be a better way, to do that. And mom got an Apple SE, which was this cute little cube computer that had this little black and white 9-inch screen on it. And she acquired some software, I don't know where from. And she got it, and I'm going like, hey, Mom, can I come up and play in the evenings? And so I'd get up there and I'd start playing with, she had a copy of Illustrator 88 and Freehand
now I understand.
1.1. And I'm going like, okay, there's got to be a way to do all these illustrations. And I'm going like, I was up there for like 2 weeks straight at her house after work, and she's in the other room. And at this point in time, we worked for the competitors. So I was with one company, she was with another, and I'm, go away, Mom, you can't see what I'm doing. And so I figured it out. And so it was fun. So really, that's kind of how I got into some of this, is really just getting into the technology side of things, of bringing traditional crafts into the 21st century. And so that's kind of where I've gotten into a lot of this, is, getting into the desktop publishing. In fact, I'm still doing a lot of desktop publishing stuff here with Fabric Café. I'm responsible for buying all of our print time and going through all of the processes of getting a job printed with proofs and, yelling at the press when they do it wrong and all of that stuff. So, I mean, in fact, this morning I had to do 2 QC. No, actually I did 4. I did 4 QCing of the jobs. We got the jobs in, and so I go through with a fine-tooth comb, look at them, make sure they're the right size, colors look good, all of that stuff. And occasionally we find problems, but most of the time it comes in correctly because of all of the stuff that we done all along the way.
Right.
You
But
know,
it's still that's a huge job. I mean, that's, quality control is,
right.
I mean, you make a mistake and it's like, then you got 1,000 million books printed with that mistake in it.
True. And, we have actually scrapped print jobs because it had a big enough problem in it that we're going like, we can't let that go out. We'll just have to be delayed in the release of that or whatever.
You don't want to put a little sticker in there and say, oops.
We've done that.
Well, if it's small, but like
if it's small, yeah.
Yeah.
If it's small, it does that. But, when you got to go in and, touch 10,000 books, it gets to be a little intensive in labor to go through and, put that little insert in there. And then, it can be a bit of a nightmare at times, being able to do that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I get to play even more with tech because, you talked about state of search. So I'm always looking at how our performance is doing with the website, how many people are coming to the website, and, monitoring all of that. And, I get to research bugs, shall we say, or features that aren't working. This afternoon, I was looking into an issue to where, our downloads are having a particular issue that we were looking into, and I had to look into it, figure out what was going on. And I now have a workaround and a way to fix the issue. And so, yay. So now we can make, that's all working correctly again. So,
And I just want to say John is a master at that because, I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this out loud. So there were a few times, John, I broke the website. Can you fix it? And I'm not kidding. Usually within 5 minutes, he'd have it fixed. But literally, I have no idea what I did. So John is definitely very, very handy to have when you're doing technology because well, previously you were a programmer? No, not a programmer. What were you?
Uh, I was, I'll call myself a web developer, but I was more like a web hacker.
Yeah.
I can get in there and make it do things that I wanted it to do. And
Yes.
because I've done that so much of tweaking things, and I really, really intimately knew where things were. And if this happened, I could fix it by doing this. And so that worked out to my advantage on
It
fixing
really
some of your
has.
past issues.
Yeah, it really has. Really has. And I'm sure it obviously, you find your workarounds and because technology, that's what it is. There's workarounds. I mean,
Right.
I don't care who you are. It doesn't matter what website. It doesn't matter even if you're in the quilting world. Websites have challenges, and you got to have the right person. And not that we're hiring John out because we're not, but
Can't have me.
yeah, no, not anymore. Not anymore. I was so mad when he left. I'm telling you, I was really mad when he left. But he went for a good thing, and he's loving life. But anyways, technology is really important for people who are in business now. That kind of reminds me about what the next question I wanted to talk about because usually it's the women behind the scenes and the men are out front, right?
Right.
Okay, well, in the quilting world, it's very different.
It
It's
is.
now the women out front and the men behind the scenes. However, there's a lot more men that are entering the quilting world and actually quilting. I have seen some phenomenal quilts done by men. Um, what do you think men bring to this quilting world? I mean, women and men have different perspectives on things, right? And this has really
Right.
been more of a woman's thing, right? But
Right.
there are a lot more men entering it. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm going to first say this. You know, in the United States, women are the crocheters.
Mm,
In Europe, the men are the crocheters.
really?
It's an interesting perspective. And so I think, in the quilting industry specifically, in fact, one of our first mom and pop businesses that we used for doing a lot of our long arming was a husband and wife team. They
Mm.
retired, they bought a long arm, and now they're trying to pay for it. And it was pretty cool because she kind of, did all of the design work and got it all set up, and then he would run the long arm all day long.
Mm.
Because he got tired of her calling him up going like, I broke it again, would you come fix it? And he said, well, I'm just going to do this. It's
Right, right.
just nip this at the bud. And so I think really that's kind of where it starts getting into it, is the technology is making it to where the guys are going like, hey, this could be kind of fun.
Mhm.
um, and because really, I mean, think about all of the sewing machines that you're buying nowadays. They've got 1,000 different stitch patterns on them, and you can do
Oh
all
my
of this fun
gosh.
stuff. And the long arms, while they're still pretty significant price to put down on a really nice top of the line long arm, it's got all of this great tech that's behind it. And so it's making it this is kind of a fun thing to play with. Um, and then you get into the side of things to where, us guys need creativity too. I mean, I not only do I do, quilting, I mean, there's other things that I'm doing creatively that's analog, not involving a computer and things like that. For example, I love to do calligraphy on the side, so I'm making cards and doing fun things like that. And I mean, you can't get any more analog than an old fountain pen and ink, or if I'm really getting nostalgic, I'm over here dipping this pen in ink. And there's a lot of really fun creativity around that. And I think even for me personally, I love it because it's very modular. It's very precise.
Mhm.
I love, from my days of doing illustration where I've got straight edges and pins, and everything's very linear and very precise. I think quilting is that way too.
Mhm.
And I just love to watch a quilt come together where you've got blocks in here and you're trying to get all your corners to line up. And I just love that level of detail. And that's where it really resonates with me. And I think, even we're starting to get in and seeing more guys getting into doing the design work.
Mhm.
That's because I think, some of the tools are there. There's a product that we use called EQ8 or Electric Quilter 8, version 8. And that's just a blast to play with because you
Mhm.
can get in there and just start dropping fabrics in and you can see where it works. And if any of you are, I mean, because you've seen our videos on YouTube to
Mhm.
where we're now putting quilt images up there all the time of showing
Wow.
it. And we're doing all those images through EQ8.
Is
And
that I was wondering, I was gonna ask you that question. I was
that's
wondering,
how
how
we're
are you
doing
doing
it.
that without, because before you literally had to make every single one, right?
Right. You
Yeah.
know, so all of those images that we're putting up in our show is we're just illustrating those through EQ8, spitting out that image, and then Justin, our video guy, and is putting all of that together and doing all of his smoke and mirrors that he does on the back end to make it look gorgeous, where it's rolling up on the screen and all of that fun stuff. And so there's just great tech that's getting in there now, and it's making it to where we're starting to see some of these guys that are getting more involved in it. I can think of, several guys from the fabric companies that are, part of the personality of their business now. And
Mhm.
they've created personas around this guy that's in the quilting industry. We've got fabric designers like Kay Facette that's doing just, some really bright, bold, out there fabrics. And then, of course, we've got, uh, I don't know if I'll get my hand slapped here, but we've got the guys over at So Yeah that are just doing some fun and just edgy, fun, crazy stuff. And you can see them walking the shows and, just creating this whole persona around guys in quilting. Um, and I can't think of, there's another guy that's one of the fabric reps, another company that's the same thing. He's out there, he's making stuff. They've built a whole set around him, a guy in the quilting industry. And I think it's just making it to where it's, getting outside of the box that, this is your grandma's traditional, we're going to have a quilting bee. We all come over here and we've got the quilting rack set up and we're all over here stitching our, 12 stitches per inch, beautiful quilt that took months and months and months and months to make,
Yeah.
to where it's now trendy, Gen Z compatible that we can now literally make a quilt top in a night and anybody can do this. So I think that's where it's really getting to, is it's now opening up to where other people and other generations and all of that are really getting into the industry. I think it's really exciting.
It is exciting. It's very exciting, and I'm finally starting to see some of the younger generation. I don't know if they're millennials or Gen X or Z or Y. I don't know. I don't know the age limits to all of those,
Right.
but I'm noticing that there are more and more of them getting into the industry, and there's more and more of them quilting and picking up the you know, I call it a habit because, it can become a habit that, that you're addicted to. But,
Very true.
and, it's fun. You have to find your release, and sewing is for me like a release, right? And for a lot
Right.
of people, and we like to make things and give things, because it makes us feel good. And so I think that's really important. Now, I was in obviously a very male dominated business world.
Right.
And, there were many times that clients and customers would come in and they'd look at me like I was just not very bright because I was a woman. And then I would baffle them with my brilliance and help them understand that I knew more than they did. And then they kind of chilled out. Now, I'm just curious because I feel like, are there those same, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Stereotypes. Do women look down on men in this industry because this is a woman's industry? I'm just curious what your thoughts are.
Well, I think all industries are starting to get a little bit of crossover in them. I mean, think about State of Search, for example, the
Mhm,
search conference that we've both been to. You
mhm,
know, that industry was very male dominated at one
mhm.
point, and now we're getting some very, very influential names in that industry that are now females.
Yeah.
I mean, a side conversation that you and I were having, okay, we're going to get nerdy for a second, was about Google Analytics. Well, you sent me a bunch of links and content that was done by a young lady, and it's really good content.
Mhm.
And I think, I'm seeing now it's all of the craft industry is gotten to where it's now very, very acceptable for both sexes to really be involved in this industry.
I'm glad. I'm glad.
I think, I love to share the story of when my wife Patricia and I were first, or when we were engaged, and she was trying to find a wedding dress and all of this stuff, and I'm going like, well, I can fix that, because I also sew clothing. I mean, one of my favorite things to do, or really got me inspired in doing a lot of sewing, was I was making all of my daughter's dresses and all of that when she was a little girl. I mean, I've got, a sundress pattern that I would just crank them out in an evening for all these cute little sundresses and things
Aw,
for her.
that's so fun.
And I wished I had some of the pictures still. I need to dig around and see if I can find them.
Yes.
But anyway, so I told my fiance, now wife, that, well, I'll just fix your dress and make it the way that you want it. And I remember the first time she went to church the next week, and she's talking with the ladies at church, and they all went, "He's going to do what?" They were shocked. They're going, "No, he's going to ruin it. He's going to be horrible." And it's just like, so that's more of the type of things that I'm seeing. He can do that. And, really it's now, I mean, we had a little country fair night at church, to where we, did it all up and had fun. And we had a quilt show, or a handmade product show. We'll call it that. So we had some dresses and some other things and other quilts. And so I brought in some of my quilts, and it's like all of the ladies, "Man, you're really good at this." It wasn't, "You made that?" No, it wasn't that. It was like, "Oh, you did a great job on this. Will you make me one?"
Well, now they wanna hire you out.
Yeah,
Okay.
now they want to hire
Not
me
for
out. They're asking me
technology, but
questions.
for quilting. That's awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome. So, tell me, do you have role models that you think about, or somebody who's inspired you, or I mean, besides Donna and Fran? I mean,
Well, I have to go back to mom again. She's really my inspiration in all of this. And, through everything that she was teaching us as kids, which, okay, I have to share one of my first projects that I'm going like, okay, I can do this. I can be creative. I don't need a pattern to do this. There's such things as patterns. And so when I was probably, I don't know, 4 or 5, I just learned how to do a double crochet. And if you aren't familiar with that, that's going to be this long, skinny stitch. And when you do a bunch of them together, there's holes through them.
yes.
And I'm going like, well, I'm going to make me a pair of house shoes with double crochets.
Oh my god.
So,
Hilarious.
so I'm getting after it, and I'm like, sewing around crocheting around my foot and all of this stuff. The left one was this high, the right one was this high. It went up to my knee. My toes are hanging out of it and all of this. But, I'm crocheting house slippers for myself.
That's hilarious.
It's a great story.
It's a great
Mom
story.
was encouraging, going like, "You did a great job with this." And so mom's really the inspiration, because she kind of instilled in Fran and I both that you can do this.
Mhm.
It's okay to make a mistake. And because of that, we weren't afraid to try anything. And so, really mom's the inspiration. It's like,
That's
I
great.
jump into the middle of going like, "Well, I can do this."
Yeah.
It's sewing straight lines. And I think that's one of the cool thing about quilting, is it really is, at the introductory level of quilting, it's just a straight line that you're sewing. So
Mhm.
it's really not difficult.
No.
But you can get into the more creative things, where you start getting into curves. Shameless plug. Where is it? You know,
Yeah.
you can do curve appeal, where you've got curves and stuff on it.
Mhm.
And, and I'm going like, I'm seeing curve appeal going like, that's nothing. I've set sleeves. Come on.
Right, right. Yeah.
This seam up here, that's a tough seam to do to get it to not pucker and gather, weird,
Yes,
curb
that's true.
appeal. That's nothing.
Yeah.
And, so for me, it's really just knowing that I don't have to be afraid to try new things. So whenever I was making this quilt, this was the first 3-yard quilt that I made. I didn't know that it had a very specific thing, because we always tell, we're always promoting when we're talking about 3-yard quilts that you've got your focus fabric, you've got a light fabric and a dark fabric, and they,
Mhm.
that contrast and everything works great. Well, I went in here and I actually swapped my fabric 2 and 3. So the white was actually fabric 2 and the brown here is actually fabric 3. I'm getting good at pointing at this stuff. I should
You
be.
are, you are.
No, and then, mom said, well, why don't you have fun and put a 4th fabric in it? So I came over here and added this stripe in the border and, added a 4th fabric to the basics of a 3-yard quilt. And so that's even kind of our philosophy as we're doing our videos and things like that. This is a starting point for you. Mix it up, change it up, make it your project. So
Mhm.
change it up, add another border onto it. If you want, the little corner blocks up here, if you want those on your quilt, add those in there. Have fun with it. You know,
Absolutely.
so that's the beauty about quilting is you don't have to follow the rules and things like that. And that's one of the things that Fran and I have done with all of our quilting. This is just a suggestion. So she'll go out and we joke here in the office. We've got a trash can back here that has a big sign on it says this is not trash. Please do not take it out. Housekeeping, and it's our fabric scrap bin. So you'll go back in there and you'll see us in there, dumpster diving for fabric.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And
That makes
it's
sense.
a blast to do that, to go in and do a scrappy project.
Yeah.
And, in fact, yesterday, Fran did shot a video for, I think they were doing a Gold Bold. The name of one of our books is called Gold Bold. And I think they're doing a remake of it right now. And Fran has 2 rows of curtain rods in her office on her wall, and she just drapes her projects all over this thing. So she's got like, a dozen different quilts in her office just as inspiration and color and all of that.
That's awesome.
And,
That's cool.
every single one of them was made from stuff out of the fabric dumpster.
That's awesome.
And,
That's
and she just goes in, just gets all of the fabrics that just resonate with her and puts them all together. And that's exciting, just to make stuff that's outside of the box of that
predetermined.
predetermined. Yeah, the predetermined, it's got to be a focus fabric, a light fabric, and a dark fabric. It doesn't have to be. And that's the beauty. And I know that every single one of your listeners and our followers and fans and all that, they all have a stash. And I always joke whenever I'm at the trade shows with them, going like, okay, the guest bedroom closet, I know you've got a fabric that you can use. Just go in there when you get home and go get it. Or if that's not anybody, check those bins under the guest bedroom bed. You've got some fabric you can use for this. And that's the beauty about it.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And what's interesting to me is that when, I was an art teacher way back when, okay.
And that's why you love quilting.
Well, quilting, crafting, all that. I mean, maybe that's another reason why we get along so well, right? Because we like all that stuff.
The color, the textures, the look, the feel.
Absolutely. And when I taught, I was K through 4. So, it was amazing to me how many of those kids would like get so upset if their crayon went outside the line. And I would say to them, why are you so upset? My mom is going to be so upset with me. I said, no, relax. Art is in the eye of the beholder. What do you love to do? Do what you love to do. I used to try to teach that to all those kids because that perfection and getting, right up to the line or not crossing it. And,
right.
But that's what art is. And bringing in an extra fabric or 2. I mean, obviously it works really well, but that's what's cool about 3-yard quilts is you can do that. I think if you were on some other quilt pattern, it wouldn't be so easy to add something because of all the cutting and the different angles and everything else. But that's why I love 3-yard quilts.
Right.
because you can do that. And I
Exactly.
love your videos where, I was stressed about just simple, how do you choose the fabric? Okay. I've got a ton of fabric. Well, okay, it makes it easy. You find your focus, you find your light, you find your dark. I mean,
Right.
boom, right? Done.
Right. Yeah,
I
I'm
mean,
laughing because I'm actually covering for our customer service representative today. She's out celebrating her birthday and having a couple of days off for herself. And it's funny, several questions that I had that were emailed in today. It's like they would send me a picture of one fabric and go like, "What do I do with this?" I'm going like, "Oh, goody! I get to play with the paints now."
yeah, how
And
fun.
it's so fun. I love actually matching fabric. Uh, some of our episodes that we've done on our YouTube channel is the family challenge, or you know
Yes.
those are so fun because we'll get a focus fabric and then we've got to go pick the light and the dark and put together stuff that looks awesome. And, we'll always get some kind of a challenge. One of the ones that was the biggest challenge for me is we had to go in and pick out uh, fabrics for a particular personality type.
Yes.
And, so those are the types of questions that I'll ask. Is, well, what's the person's favorite color? Or what are their interests? Do they like horses? Do they like fishing? Do they like camping? Do they like uh, animals? Whatever it might be. You find that one thing that you really love, and then, you start adding in some other things with that. And, really look at the colors in the fabric, and there's inspiration in there.
Mhm.
Um, I
Mhm.
think one of the coolest things to do is if you've got a focus fabric, look at what the background of that fabric is. There's one of your other two fabrics right there. Is it a
Yeah.
dark? Well, then find you a dark that matches that dark, and there's your number 3 fabric with a 3-yard quilt. Or if it's a
Mhm.
light background, there's your number 2 fabric that you can use with that.
Yeah.
Um, look at that fabric and see what really pops out at you. One of these great things that I learned early in my days of doing design work to see if things were balanced and asymmetrical and all of those kind of things, shall we say, was to squint at the fabric. What color pops off of that when you squint at it?
Oh, yeah, I
Uh,
remember you talking about that. Yeah, that's a
right.
great idea. Okay, say that
Um,
again. When you squint at the fabric, what does it do?
what pops out at you when you're squinting at it?
Mhm.
So for example, I had a lady that sent me in a fishing motif fabric, and it had fishing rods and trout and the little basket that you put the fish in when you catch it. I'm not a fisher person, so sorry if I'm not using the right terms, but
Me neither.
so I squinted at it, and literally one of those baskets, the lid on the basket, the color popped off that fabric at me when I squinted at it, and I'm going like, "There's the brown that you need to match with this fabric." And so, I gave her the suggestion, find a brown that matches that. It can be fish related. It could be, just a neutral brown,
Yeah, it could be bear
urban
related. It could
grunge,
be
anything that's
hunting
that
related. Yeah.
right. And find that, and it's going to actually make that sing. And so those are the fun things that you can find with those.
That's a great tip. That's a great tip. So, since you got to fill in today, so here's a question for you. Is there a project that sticks in your mind that really stands out to you? I mean, like, I know there's lots, but usually there's like one or two maybe that, I mean, like, really took your breath away, like, wow, that was like something else.
Well, I could take this a couple of different ways. I mean, we have fun here at Fabric Cafe. It's like, every time we release, we're putting together a new book, we're always over going, I hope they like it. I hope they're going to buy it. And, we haven't had a dud yet. So that's exciting. But for me personally, every now and then we get fabric in that just, I'm going like, I love that fabric. And, and for me, the biggest project I've done is I actually made a queen king topper for my bed.
Did you?
I did. And it was a big project. I literally worked on it for 2.5 years because,
Wow.
I started it in one of our snowmageddons that we had here in Texas.
Yeah.
Um, for all of you folks up north that thinks that it must have been really, really bad here in Texas for us to, have a snowmageddon. It was, 2 or 3 inches.
Yeah.
The world shuts down because first off, we don't know how to drive in it,
Yeah.
and we all think we're going to die.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it's always fun when we have bad storms coming
I
in,
know.
grocery store shelves get cleaned off and all that. Well, I'm going like, no big deal. I can work from home. And besides, I just bought 12 yards of fabric for making a queen size quilt. And that's another beautiful thing about our 3-yard quilt patterns is we've got them designed to where they're modular.
Mhm.
So I went and bought 4 of our 3-yard kits, and they were some beautiful batiks. Batiks are my
Ooh,
favorite fabric. I love, 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 love
ooh, they
batiks.
are fun. They are super fun.
And so it was just this beautiful, um, it was a beautiful red batik with kind of tropical flowers in that batiki kind of a feel. Uh, I don't know if I've got a picture of it. I can be cheesy and hold my phone up against the TV.
That'd be awesome. I'd love to see it.
So it was this gorgeous red, rich batik, and then also a blue that was the same style of printing on it, and then a
Go
lighter
Ranger.
blue batik. And I literally, when it came in, I saw it, I fell in love with it, and I said, "Oh, I've got to do that." And so I said, now's the time for me to go ahead and buy this. I found my picture. And so this
Oh
is
my God,
the,
that is beautiful.
this is the, I'm drawing a blank on the pattern name. We
It'll come.
always joke about it that we have, 100 and almost 200 kids that we have names picked out for, and we can't remember them. That is, oh, well, I don't
It'll
remember
come
their
to
name.
you later. It'll come to you later. That's beautiful. Nice. I love
And
boutiques too. There's some, I don't know if it's the movement in them or I don't know. They're just
they're
really
so
cool.
organic. They aren't just there. It's not hard edge coloring book. It's free form coloring
Yeah,
basically.
yeah.
And, so that was in one of our Snowmageddons. I started cutting out that kit, and I'm going like, this is the biggest project I've ever done. I've got 12 yards of fabric here, and I'm cutting and having a blast, and got an audio book or something playing, and I glance over every now and then, seeing that 3 or 4 inches of snow out there falling outside, and I'm going like, this is a great way to stay warm and cozy. But that was one of the biggest projects I've done, and it's absolutely turned out gorgeous. It's now on my bed, and I just, it's a beautiful project, and I just had a blast putting that one together.
It's beautiful. I mean, on your phone, I can only imagine what it looks like on your bed. I bet it's just gorgeous.
Yeah.
Absolutely just gorgeous.
And
So,
and of course I did break the rules on it. I actually had enough extra blocks that I added extra half row on it. So now when you tuck it over the end of the bed, I've got those half blocks down there. So there's little tips that you can do with all of this stuff.
yeah,
It's fun.
yeah, absolutely. So, what advice would you give to other men potentially coming into this industry?
Well, I think the way to start that is it says, honey, I'd like to take you out to dinner. And then over dinner, break it. I'd like to borrow your sewing machine for a little bit. I promise not to break it. No, I think really, if your significant other is already doing some quilting and sewing and things like that, offer to help out. What am I trying to say? Offer to help out by doing, some cutting, because, a lot of times cutting's not the fun part. I actually enjoy doing the cutting.
I do too. I do too. Is that weird?
I don't think so. Because for me, it's that I get to play with the rulers and something that can cut my fingertip off and things like that with the rotary cutter.
Right.
Um,
Right.
but it's, give it a try, make it a date night. Say, hey, honey, let's work on your next project together. I'll be sewing and ironing, or, I'll be, ironing the seams. Then you can have a great discussion between you and your significant other, saying, well, do we want to press into the light side, the dark side, or open?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
And, there's fun things like that you can just have this whole conversation about. And then, who knows, maybe you could say, hey, oh, you're going to the fabric store? Well, can I go with you? And then maybe say, oh, I really like this motorcycle fabric. Could we make something with that together? Or, maybe they've got, maybe he's a fisherman, and maybe, there's some commonality and some bonding that you could have with over
Oh, I
this. I
think
think
so
it's
too.
a fun little thing. I'm working on that with my wife. I'm the quilter, she's not. But
I was
she's
going to ask you if she started quilting yet, but
she hasn't started quilting yet, but she's one of this is fun. On one of our dates, we actually made a pillow together. And
nice.
we did a big 4-patch on the front of the pillow and then just a basic back on it. And I
Uh-huh.
had her cut it and sew it and all of that stuff. And she's wanting to do more of that.
Good.
So whenever she's back and instead of putting stuff in the fabric dumpster, she's creating this pile over here. And now it's at home and I have a very large stash of fabric scraps. And so one of these days when we take some time off together at the same time and we stay home, we're probably going to do some sewing and teach her some more things in and around that.
I think that's exciting. I love that idea. And what I've noticed, because obviously Fabric Gems Boutique, I have an Etsy store and I carry a lot of fabric, but I've noticed that there seems to be more masculine, is that the right word to say? Fabrics out there more and more coming, which is really nice
True.
because, not all men like flowery quilt tops,
Yeah.
I mean,
Daisies are great, but I don't want to sit and watch football under a daisy quilt.
right, right. Now, I just wish that like the NFL would have better fabrics coming out because I'm so tired of the same ones over and over again. But it is what it is because I
Right.
make those quilts too for my friends who I tailgate with, and I made this gorgeous one. Actually, it was I think it was out of Double Focus, out on the new books, and it went together so easily. It was just
Right.
amazing. I mean, I had it done in a day. The top done in a day, and which is like for me, that's a big deal.
Right.
Maybe not for others, but for me, it was definitely a big deal. But I just think that doing things together is fun, and it can open a whole new world. Now, I know not all guys want to get into it, but
Right.
if you spend some time with your wife in that sewing room, instead of criticizing, life might get better.
I can see it now. She's over sitting in her chair with her iPad watching this video, and she's going like, "Hey, honey, look at this. See, you need to be interested."
Yes, it would be
It's
really
okay,
fun.
guys. John said it's okay.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
don't have to tell your buddies that you're sewing with your wife.
So
It's
we are
special.
probably like getting near the end. So I want to know, you kind of showed us something real quick. So what is new on the horizon with Fabric Cafe? I know you just literally, what was it, a week or two ago,
A couple weeks ago,
introduced.
we released fabulous 5-yard quilts, and
Mhm,
I held that up a minute ago. It's a
mhm,
fun one.
mhm,
By the way, that's mom, that's my sister.
mhm.
And this is a really exciting product because you're using 5 yards of fabric, and it's great. You can get a lot of variety in them. You've got 5 different fabrics that you're working with, so
Show
it's
the back of that. What I really like about your patterns books is that you don't have to search through the pattern book to see what's inside. You have it all on the back cover, and
right.
you get to just see the design, and then you can choose one from there. Now, open the book up and show people. Like everything is so nicely laid out. It is so easy to really.
We give you great illustrations to show you everything. We give you an idea of what it's going to look like. We're giving you all of the little swatches here that, this is your focus, this is your light, this is your dark, this is your, I can't read it from here, but you can read that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
What does it say? It's fabric number 4, which is a little
Mhm,
gingham pattern, and then fabric number 5 is kind of like a
mhm,
medium, a little gray box. And
mhm.
so, we give you very consistent instructions. If you've made one of our quilts, they all read the same. Our style guide and our style police keep everything very, very, very consistent. And I think one of the things that really is kind of a key factor of a lot of our designs is that we're doing the strip method, and so it makes it go a lot faster. So instead of sewing together all these little pieces into this, we literally had a strip of brown, a strip of white. We sewed those two together, and that was our first strip assembly, and then we're sewing that together with others, and it just goes really, really nice and fast from that perspective.
It really does. It super does. And
Right. We're always working on new things. Literally, I sent a new book off to press yesterday. Sorry, I can't give any spoilers.
oh,
You're going to love it. But we've got a book number 26 went to press yesterday, and it's something different. So everybody's going to love it. We're still 3-yard quilts. It's still focused on 3-yard quilts plus some. And that's coming out. We've already got our publishing schedule set up for the year. We've got some more things that are going to be exciting for you to that you're going to see coming out. So stay tuned, and we've got some exciting things there. Of course, I'll also throw a shameless plug in here. We are going to be attending QuiltCon the middle of February. Don't remember the dates off the top of my head. It's
the
like
20th through the 23rd.
There you go. Over in Phoenix, Arizona. So we'll be there in booth 644. And we'll have Fran, Donna, and I will, the three of us will be there working the booth. So stop by, say hi, photo ops, we'll sign books, all of that kind of fun stuff. We've got, some book deals that we're going to be doing there at that show. It'll be fun to do that. And of course, we're looking forward to other. We're trying out some new shows this year. This will be our first time to be vending at QuiltCon, which is really an interesting, a different focus kind of in the market. It's kind of that, that Comic-Con, QuiltCon kind of a feel. There's a lot of people that'll be there in younger audiences, and I'm really looking forward to get there. I haven't been to a QuiltCon yet. Both Fran and Donna have attended the show for the last 2 years, and picked up some really inspirational ideas and thoughts there. Made some nice connections. One of those was a company called Pre-Quilt. I'll throw in another plug here for them. Pre-Quilt is a neat online thing to where you can go drop your own fabrics or your own colors and designs into coloring pages.
Really?
And we have a lot of the Fabric Café designs that we have coloring pages for, and we're constantly working on adding more in there. We're hoping to get our whole library in there.
Wow.
So that you can literally go in and drop in colors and see what the designs look. And with some of the paid levels that they have, you're able to take your own photos and drop those in there fabrics. Wow. It's cool. A really cool product. So that's another fun one, kind of like EQ8 is. But it's online and it's easy to use. And again, that's a husband-wife team that's doing Pre-Quilt. He's getting to learn about quilting as he's programming it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of course, the other new thing that we've got back in Houston last year at Quilt Festival and Quilt Market, we released quilt panel patterns, which is
take pictures.
Oh yeah, there you go. Panel patterns. So we've got patterns now that use 6, 7. I may have that wrong, but we've got patterns that are now designed to work with different sizes of panels, and that's.
I am really excited about that because I see so many panels that I really like. But how many walls do I have to actually hang them on?
True.
And again, I'm new, so I don't know what to do with all these panels.
Right.
But I was thrilled when I saw that at the Houston market. Like, that was so cool to, because maybe now it's inspired me to make my own quilt with a nice, cool panel.
With panels, yeah. Mm-hmm. So there's stuff out there, and we're finding that that's been just well received, and it's exciting to see how those are doing. So, I mean, we've got a lot of things that we're listening to our customers again, and they were going like, well, how do I use these panels? And we're going like, well, let's figure it out. Well, there you go. Yeah. So we've got 6 panel patterns out now. So that would be another great opportunity to check out some of the things we're doing with that.
So this popped into my head earlier, and maybe you have thoughts about this. I think you need to make labels that say "Made with Love" from 3-yard quilts.
That would be interesting. We're working on some merchandising stuff.
Well, I'm just throwing that in there for you. I mean, maybe you already have that in the works or the plans, but because I don't want to make my own labels. I'd rather or find a way to. Now I print a lot on fabric from my printer because
And that's really a good option is, they've got the fabric that you can run through your inkjet printer, and that's a really quick and easy way to, produce a little custom label that you can use on
yeah,
it.
yeah.
And then you
So
always got fabric pens and markers and stuff like that that you can work
right,
with.
right, right. Okay, so last question. Hmm. What is your favorite place to vacation?
That's a tough one because really, I love traveling, and I've had the opportunity to go some really cool places. I've been all over the United States. Um, I've been down to Jamaica. I've been to Mexico. I've been to Scotland. I've been to London. I've been to all over Greece. I've been to even fun places like Manila in the Philippines.
That's cool.
Got great stories of all of these places.
I do.
And I just love to travel. I love to see, different places and things like that. In fact, Patricia and I are working on our next, trip that we're working on, and we're looking at going back to the UK and spending some time there in a little lazy community on the western coast of the UK and see what we can find.
You know, I would love to go there too. My daughter-in-law is from Manchester,
Nice.
and of course, her whole side of the family still lives there. I mean, there are some in the States here, but I just think that would be a fun trip to see, what's happening in Manchester. We have this idea that London is massively huge, and it's not.
We're in Texas, y'all.
And so,
I
I
could
always
drive for 12 hours and still not be out of the state.
well, you got the royal family, so you think everything's grandiose, right? But
Right.
apparently it's really not. But I know she's posted a lot of beautiful pictures from over there, and I just think in the water and the sea and the mountains and the greenery, and it's just gorgeous stuff to me
Right.
personally. But
And of course, an underlying thing that is always happening with me when I travel is I'm looking at fabrics and stuff. Um, when I went to Scotland, I had the opportunity to tour a textile mill
oh,
where
cool!
they actually wove the various uh, the Tardif patterns for the Scottish kilts.
Wow, that's
Now I'm going to say
cool.
kilt instead of quilt.
Yeah,
And there's a story behind all of the fabric involved in all of that, and the detail and how much fabric is in a kilt is amazing. There's something like 12 yards of fabric in a kilt with
yeah,
all of the pleating and all of that, and it's just
yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
Um, and the history in all of that is really interesting. I think, one of the things that I'm hoping to be able to do while if we're able to go to the UK this year is I want to go see if I can find some quilt shops, because I want to learn a little bit more about the UK market in regards to quilting,
Hmm.
because, we've got customers that are there. I mean, we ship internationally, and it's interesting to maybe see what some of their fabric selection is like. What are the quilt shops or even the sewing shops are like? I know there's a lot more of that small mom and pop thing. They don't have the big chains of,
Right,
you
right.
know,
Yeah.
that we have here in the United States. And so it'd be kind of interesting to see some of the perspective that they have.
I think it'd be really interesting, really, really interesting. Because I do too. I don't ship that often, but I've shipped to Australia and London and
Right.
Canada and Germany. It's interesting. People, when they want something, they want something. And
True.
I'm probably one of the few on Etsy that maybe do ship there. But the way I see it is, they don't get to experience what we get to experience. Why not send it to them
Right.
so they can experience what we get to experience? That's just my philosophy. So that's why I keep it open to, all the countries, well, most all the countries. Some of them it's ridiculous shipping, so I don't do that. But
Right. Well, we have the same issue, and we just communicate up front, saying, hey, the shipping for that is going to be $130.
yeah, Right.
And, a lot of times they'll say, that's great. Send it on.
Yeah.
Because, we kind of are spoiled here in the US because most
Agree.
of us have a quilt shop within a half hour of us.
Yeah.
I've spoken with customers up in Canada that literally their nearest quilt shop is 3.5 hours one way.
Wow.
And, yeah, they will get in the car with their quilting buddies from their little town and they'll make a day trek over to the quilt shop.
Yeah.
I've communicated through emails with customers in Australia.
Mhm.
They're saying, it's a plane trip to go to the quilt shop for us.
Wow. Wow. That's
Um,
interesting.
and it's really fun when we're at like shows like Quilt Festival to meet some of the international customers that come in. They come in with an empty suitcase,
Mhm.
and they're literally filling that with fabric and the things that they
Mhm.
can't find in their local international areas.
Yeah.
So we are kind of spoiled here in the United States from that.
We
And
really are. I have to agree with that. When I was at Houston Market, it wasn't last year, it was the year before, this gal that came in, she flies in from Spain.
yes,
And, and she said, yeah, I have 2 empty suitcases and I take it all home with me. And I just think that is so cool that, they want to come here so they get to experience what we get. I just think that's pretty cool that people do
right.
it. So,
So it's a big industry and
you
it's
know,
fun.
somebody told me when early on that this industry is as large as or larger than the NFL.
I believe it.
And I blew me away. I was like, there's no way. But now that I mean, after, yeah, I probably totally agree with that. But it's a niche, right? And it's
Right.
not as well known. I think it's becoming more well known, quilting. I mean, I know quilting's been around forever, but I think it's grown into, look at people are buying long arms now and changing their bedroom, getting rid of the furniture and putting the long arm in there, right?
Right.
I've got a friend who they remodeled their house, but their family room, they got rid of their family room, and now it's this big old huge long arm, and it's like a quilter's dream, literally.
Big screen TV, long arm.
Yeah, she's got it all. She's got a huge cutting table, and then she's got a row of cabinets, and I was like, and then she's got her
I want a
sewing.
friend like that. I want to go play at their house.
Oh, I love going to her house and playing because we do periodically, and she does several of my quilts for me, and it's just
That's
fun
really
being
cool.
in there, just super fun because it's like massive. It's huge. It's bigger than a garage. It's really big and fun and very organized, and we just have a lot of fun there. So that's my dream is to, you know, build something big enough that I'm able to go do that on my own.
That's cool.
Yeah. Well, we could sit here and talk forever. Honestly,
We could.
this has been a great conversation, and thank you so much, John. Hi, Fran. Hi, Donna. Thank you for letting me have him on my podcast. I'm so excited to share this
Oh, I
with
was supposed to give
everybody.
them a choice?
No, no,
No, this is fun.
this was us. I wanted to talk more about men in the industry, and we did, and how important that it is, and how exciting it is that more men are coming into this industry, and more men are really supporting their wives
Right.
in this industry, which I think is huge because, you know, my generation, which I'm a little older than John, but the wives supported their husbands, right? And the husbands did it all, and we stayed home and took care of the kids. Well,
Right.
now it's kind of switching a little bit, and I kind of like that a little bit. I just love seeing it when husbands are supporting their wives in something that they love to do. So
Exactly.
with
That's great.
that being said, John, thank you so much for being here today.
You are so
um,
welcome.
I am very excited to share this with everybody, and I know that everybody's going to love this, just love this. And until next time, everybody, thank you so much for watching and listening. I'm very grateful. I'm Kris O'Connor with Fabric Gems Boutique, and my store is in Etsy, and it's called Fabric Gems Boutique if you're looking for any fun fabric. And I'm just excited to share this with you. Until next time, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.